we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Unconventional Therapist Guide to Nothing. My name is Dave, and I'm joined here with my co-host, Greg. Hey, Greg. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Dave.
That's excellent.
Doing
Let's
great.
get
And
right into this.
Yeah,
Don't
let's
even
get
talk.
into it.
Don't even talk, Greg.
Oh, okay.
Just kidding. Talk. Tell us how you're doing.
I'm doing fantastic. It's morning. We get the whole day ahead of us. It's a busy day today, but I think it's going to be a good day. Sun's out, summer, doing good.
All right. It's a holiday today in Rhode Island. And I
Hmm.
say that specifically because most of our neighboring states do not honor today's holiday. And yet we still do. And I'm not going to lie. I don't know a ton of the background of why other states decided not to, why we feel so strongly that we do. But it is Victory over Japan Day,
It is.
aka
And
VJ Day.
we actually have a huge, well, or did, sadly, a contingent of like World War II veterans here. And maybe they had some kind of a poll in the state house or something. I don't know what it is, but
Perhaps.
Rhode Island is big about tradition.
That's
So,
true. That's
and we
true.
don't change much,
I
you
guess
know?
that's true. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll take a day off when able to, but I was sharing
Yeah,
with you, I actually chose
call it
to
whatever you want.
I did choose to work today. I'm going to be doing telehealth sessions from home since our office is closed. But I figured, who doesn't need some therapy even on a holiday, right?
Yeah, that's true. And so I guess what you're saying is you won't take a day off.
Not today. No.
Not today. Dave, this is interesting because I really like the idea of this episode. And even after researching it for a week, I cannot completely wrap my head around what
Yeah.
I'm actually talking about
I
here.
I think I can understand what you're saying. Like the thought of this episode, I like. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
But the
So, and
episode
hopefully the
itself,
episode other people will like, but the episode itself, it's like, it's funny because this is the first episode that I was, and we've researched a lot of dark things where I'm like, do I need to be careful researching
I didn't feel
this?
that.
I know you didn't, Dave, because you're dark forces. You're that line in movies. You're messing with forces that you don't fully understand,
Sure.
right?
I
And
guess.
there's things I love about this, where my brain was going with this was like found footage. When we talked about Gothic culture, the first Gothic novel was The Castle of Otranto, and that presented itself as found footage, as if to say, if you find this text and you read it, you're going to be different somehow.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I smoked weed, and we could probably do an episode on pot because according to some of our listeners, you have to be able to do the drug to talk about it. The first time I smoked weed, my hippie friend Mike Burke said, "You're never gonna be the same." There's these things that like these I guess maybe that's why I'm interested in trauma, because it's like this thing, you do this thing and then everything changes after it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple of different ways we can talk about this cognitohazard. And one would be a supernatural element. And that's initially the way I was thinking. And it turns out it's not so much a supernatural thing, although it can be, and we can talk about it that way. But in the supernatural side of it, it's like reality altering words or an incantation. Dave, are you familiar with like H.P. Lovecraft at all?
Guy.
Okay.
I'm gonna pretend you didn't just ask me that.
Being a Rhode Islander and a
Um,
horror guy?
I happen to be wearing an Edgar Allan Poe T-shirt, who was his boy from back in the day.
Yeah. Hanging out in
They
Rhode
they
Island.
actually hung out, yeah, the church downtown.
So, we've talked about this in kind of a negative sense where H.P. Lovecraft uses some things in his stories that are like indescribable, and he talks about just knowledge of an ancient entity like Cthulhu would make a person go insane just by knowing what it is or
Oh, I have
seeing
a
it.
perfect example. There's a film, and it has a sequel as well, called The Unnameable, right? Isn't that like the perfect example of it? He doesn't use super descriptive words at times to allow the imagination to take its
Which
course.
is like Jaws was wildly successful. That's what Jaws did. It's
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing to do. Like something's out there and you kind of create um a monstrosity in your mind, which is kind of cool.
Hmm.
We also see this, and this is going to be an interesting way to talk about it. We see it in the Bible, and I remember as a kid. Do you remember the original movie Moses? He could not look upon the face of God or it would kill him. But he like just being in the presence, he like came down from the mountain. He was like 50 years older.
Yeah. Oh, I kind of remember that.
Is that something about what we're talking about here? And I know when I initially brought it up to you, you were thinking in terms of banned books and information we're not allowed to know
Hmm.
because you're very conspiratorial. Like, is the government thinking, all right, so take this like Epstein stuff. We're not going to get into it because we're not that kind of podcast, but like, is that a cognito hazard? Is there something there that if we have the knowledge of it now, that changes everything for the government, for the world we live in?
You
Like,
know, and on another level, if we want to stay out of political, also like the P. Diddy trial. Is there
exactly.
stuff they're not sharing or they don't want to share because it, involves big names in society? Is there a secret society that they're protecting here? It does
It
make
certainly
you think
feels
like
like it, doesn't it?
Illuminati type organizations exist, right?
It certainly feels like it.
You
And
you
I
hear
think that
you hear
that's
a whisper of a name that they might be implicated, and then you just never hear the name mentioned again. It's like, how does that happen?
how does that
So,
happen?
and
Is
suddenly
it
we just are supposed to
money?
forget. Yeah,
Like just would it like upset the whole what like turn over the apple cart or whatever they call it,
yeah,
and it's just this like interesting thing, this interesting concept that I really love about something that causes harm. I guess this is defining cognito hazard, right? Like it's something that causes harm or undesired effects upon being perceived.
right.
And it doesn't have to be just read or it can be seen. It's any of the senses, right? It's any of it. And we're going to get into, examples later on, which I think will make it really fun. But
Greg, I have to say this again. I think we have to start squeezing the word in or the topic name in at the beginning of your
I know
monologue,
you have to.
your
So I think
sermon.
that we're
You're
going to have
at
to
the beginning of
pass
your
that
sermon.
responsibility off to you.
The beginning of your sermon, we need to like put it in there because I just realized that was the first time we said the word or you said the word cognito hazard since we started.
I know. I realized as I said it. So the new setup, the new format is going to be you saying the word and then you say go,
Okay.
and that's kind of how we'll take care of
All
that.
right. You're gonna have to give me a second to say it then because you usually take off. So we
I
gotta
know.
we gotta
You're right.
figure that out.
I'm sorry about that. I must
Cognito
continue
hazard.
though.
Topic of the day. Guide to cognito hazard. Interesting word.
Cognitohazard,
Very interesting word.
something that causes harm by just perceiving it. Cool, right? So, it's perception-based harm. So the idea of this thing is that the act of perceiving something rather than the information it contains is what causes the danger. So that's a
Yeah.
sort of an interesting
Well,
twist on
all
things.
right. So earlier you mentioned that the way that you first saw it, the way that I first like kind of saw it with the banned books, the thing you forgot to mention was I also, even before we had that part of the discussion, I thought that this was kind of describing or a word for like a visual PTSD situation. You know how like the term like trauma can has been like expanded to not just be something you've experienced, but also something you possibly witnessed or even heard about. I didn't know if that's what at first what they were kind of referring to with the cognito
Well,
hazard.
it is that.
It is.
It is it's not
It's part of
that, but
that, right?
it is also that,
Yeah. So
So it's
that's another
visual.
end of it. And that's how also another way it fits into more mental health than just psychology, right?
Yeah, like it's visual, it's auditory, it's tactile, so it's even taste based,
Mm.
which is kind of interesting, right? But it's auditory and visual for sure. Now, you know what that makes me think of? Remember like the Momo challenge?
Yeah, I was just actually trying to remember which meme or like whatever internet thing. I thought it was Jeff the Killer, but no, it was Momo. You're right. That's what I was
Momo,
trying to think of.
dude, we don't swear on this, but Momo fucked with me.
The face.
Just like it was the ch weird chicken. I mean, for 10 minutes, well, not even 10 minutes, maybe 10 seconds, but I was like, ooh,
Am I
I do
thinking of the
not
right
like that.
thing? Momo internet. I gotta look this up. I'm trying to think if
Yeah,
I'm thinking
you're
of the
gonna
right
have
thing.
to maybe post
Oh yeah,
that or
yeah,
something.
that's what it is. Yeah, yeah. No, that's exactly what I thought it was.
Yeah,
It's a
wow, Gabe, you
chicken.
have
I didn't
no
even know
problem
I
just
never saw its body till just now. And now I can never be the same.
yeah,
I didn't know it was a chicken. I only seen close-ups of the face
yeah, the
because they would
chicken doesn't
splice
help.
it into like a regular like a casual video, right?
Yes. It's almost like, you see those in a horror movie or something like that. You wake up and you're looking at, like, maybe you're scared, you have this sense that something's there. And then sometimes in the horror movie, the imperceivable monster is there and they see it and it's like it's freeze in the sense of like fight, flight, or freeze, but it's like seeing this, I'm so terrified I can never be the same, which is an interesting thing.
I don't know if I
So
believe it though. You can never be the same. Maybe you're not the same for a few days, but can you never be the
I
same?
think that we'll get into this at the end. I think that there's information you can receive and never be the same after receiving
Yeah.
it.
Okay. I can see that.
You know what I'm saying? So, and there's also anomalous effects, which anomalous is something like, I feel like I have to define this because I couldn't really place what the word meant. So like if it snows in July, that's an anomalous event. So it's the effects can be like physical, psychological, or a combination of both. So it's really this interesting concept that have it's been with us since the beginning. And it's funny because I teach, no, humble brag, I teach the Paradise Lost, and I love it. It's like my favorite thing in the world to teach. But then I was thinking the original Cognitohazard was the tree of knowledge, right?
Mm.
So it's like this forbidden knowledge, and like I start to think like why was the tree of knowledge forbidden? And it's and then does this translate if you want to, insert government or insert whatever entity, like it tests obedience. Isn't that what
You
it does?
a film franchise that kind of teeters on this a little bit, and
What's that?
maybe more so than I'm even giving it credit for. Alien and Prometheus. Like the more I don't know if you've seen Prometheus or if you've seen like Alien Covenant. Those are like it's the Alien Covenant's kind of like a later, it was like a more recent sequel. In Prometheus, they're like searching for the meaning of life or the creation of like how life was created. And then there's a part where they understand that there was actually the a creator, and then they learn this information that just kind of changes everything that you understand about how life was created, and not in a positive way. Like there's this other life force that, and I can't remember the exact descriptor, and people, there might be somebody who saw it and they're probably getting frustrated, but it like just the way that they discovered it, like what the true story was, changes everything. It's kind of
That's
like
so interesting.
think about Da Vinci Code, right? That information that you could learn that there might be this um artifice that like changes the way we think of Christianity, Jesus, whatever, literally changes everything for you. It makes you question everything about your religion, life, everything, right? Wouldn't that be that?
It's so yes, it is that. And listen, so like in the book Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the meaning of life is the number 42. So he gets that information. He's like, ugh, life's kind of ruined, right? Because they have that answer. And you talking about like sort of this higher, like even God in that way, where how like Nietzsche says that thing, God is dead, and he doesn't mean it in a atheist sort of way, but he just means like imagine you do have that information that we're positive there's no such thing as a higher power. That changes everything for a lot of people. Even people who feel that they're atheists, know having that information would change everything.
They
Like
no
if you
longer
knew when you were gonna
atheists.
die,
Yeah, they know
if
they are
you knew
no
when you were
longer
gonna die.
atheists. I think we've talked about this before too. It's like that if we ever found out a definitive explanation of what happens after death and it wasn't something peaceful and nice, that would devastate
That would
majority
be
of
devastating.
society. And we
So
would
I think,
change as a society because people's morals and all that stuff would go down the tubes because there would be no purpose to hold yourself to a higher standard.
yeah, that's that ultimate like idea that we all know that we're gonna die, but no one acts as if we're gonna die.
And we have
Because
a reason to do the behaviors, to hold our ethics, to hold our morals. We have a reason because of that like possibly I get accepted into heaven, or possibly I get reincarnated and I want good karma and all that stuff. That those are the reasons we hold ourselves to the morals and ethics we hold ourselves to.
Yes. So those aren't the reasons that all of us do, but there's a different philosophical sort of conversation about people who are like, Ricky Gervais in one of his stand-up comedy things, he says this cool line where um someone says, if you don't believe in God, why don't you just rape and murder all you want? And he's like, I do rape and murder all I want. I just I just don't want to rape and murder. And like, there's a morality, to live good and do good for other people is feeling good and having a good life. And if you can find a morality outside of religion, that's, because religion's kind of this objective morality, and to create your own morality is important too. But I agree with you 100%. I think on some level, a lot of us, even if we say we don't believe in something, I think that's true.
Well, yeah, I
But I
mean, it's
could be
kind of the
wrong.
reason Moses had to come down with those stone tablets and tell us, like, this is what you have to do. Otherwise, you're going to hell,
Yeah, yeah,
right? It might not
and
be
that's
rape and murder all the time, but I mean, stealing and beating people up and bullying.
doing what's best for you.
If you bully, you're going to hell.
If you believe you're going to hell, I'm sorry. Don't do it in school because it's damaging. So, and back to God. So, like, I was thinking about that, like what the original forbidden knowledge. So, they wanted to test obedience. They want to maintain innocence in a sense, right? Because the knowledge was just knowledge of good and evil. And when you acquire that knowledge, you can lose your innocence in, preserving dependence on God. So that's a governmental kind of thing, right? You want to limit information to preserve dependence. If you insert government for God, then it's you keep the people dependent on you if you limit the information.
Right.
And then there's like, it provides like a sort of symbolism of choice. I think like you feel like you have a lot of choices. You just can't have all free choice. There's some things that you can't do. And I think that's true in real life. And I think that's true in government too. I don't know. I don't know how it's like kind of getting back to government for me. Maybe I'll let you talk about some key elements of this and
Yeah.
maybe twist it over to like literature so that we don't fall back into a conspiratory
Well,
episode.
as you're going on, I'm like, wow, this is like so heavy in that. It's a good thing we did conspiracy theories because this is all heavy in conspiracy theories. A lot of it, at least. Just out of curiosity, but kind of side note, are you going to talk about that? Is it SPC thing?
I'm not. I ran into it a lot, but it seems like very science fictiony and that's sort of not my avenue.
Yeah,
And we
yeah,
just did
yeah. Okay.
Scientology.
I didn't either. And I just don't even really understand what it is. But anyways. Um, okay. Key elements of cognitohazards in literature. So there's sensory perception. The hazard is activated by perceiving it through one or more of the five senses, which are obviously sight, sound, touch, taste. I always forget. Like I'll list them and I'm like at four, and then I'm like, what? What am I
I know
forgetting?
I'm trying to like wrap my head around what taste could change you forever. That would have to happen in the chocolate factory, right?
A taste that changes you forever. Oh God.
Oh yeah. Did
My
your mind
mind
just
just
go
went.
somewhere?
Yeah,
Me too.
my mind
I
just
think we
went
went south at the
somewhere.
exact same time.
Oh my
Like
God.
that would change me
I don't want to
forever.
think about
I don't
that.
want to talk about
Oh, I
it.
know what it's actually talking about. Human flesh.
Oh my God.
If you, it's like, oh man,
Taste
it's.
of blood. That's
Have
what they
you
used to say
watched?
about dogs growing up.
Have you watched Yellow Jackets? I think that's like a crazy depiction of what that might be like. Because there's at one point, and I don't think this is a spoiler alert, because I think everybody kind of knows that this happens at some point. They all gather around someone and start eating the person because they got to survive. They're stranded. Kind of like that thing we've talked about in past episodes with like the Uruguayan flight. But like I feel like that would change you because now it's not just the taste. I mean, the taste is symbolic, but now you've done something that on a societal scale we've deemed as like the ultimate taboo, right? It's
Yeah,
like
and
those
almost like it.
Uruguayan flight people, like, hey, we survived after all these days, and everyone's like, you ate people?
Mhm.
Yeah, they were frozen and dead, and we were gonna die. But like, some people could not get that out of their head. Or the way we
The
view, what was the other one, the Donner Party, also
the
trying to
Donner
survive.
Party
I mean,
and the Chilean soccer team.
yeah, that was a Uruguayan flight. Yep.
Oh yeah,
That
Uruguayan. Yeah.
um yeah, I feel like that might be. the
That's
thing.
the that or like, did you ever hear when you were growing up, a parent would say you have to get rid of a dog once it bites someone, once it tastes blood. Did you ever hear that?
I have heard that. Isn't that from like Cujo?
Because once it tastes blood, it's like
You
hungry
can't
for it, like some kind of fucked up land
can't keep
shark.
the taste.
Yeah,
It
like
just
I
needs
I
more.
don't think that's
Oh,
true.
it's like vampires. They like the thirst, like they thirst for it once they've had that.
So
Yeah.
maybe part of the cognitohazard is people implanting the idea of cognitohazard so that we avoid these things that are
Taboos.
super taboo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting. Mental impacts would be like the primary effect of it on your mind, causing effects like madness, obsession, psychological breakdown, or a distorted perception of reality. Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay.
Madness reminds me of like maybe Victor Frankenstein.
Or anybody in an H.P. Lovecraft story. I feel like he
Yeah.
always talks about like the madness of such and such. Yeah, you think of like mad with power, mad with
Hmm.
like a god complex, right?
Yes. Or like a
Um,
mad scientist,
yeah,
you know?
which I kind of, I guess I said god complex almost like in my head is like synonymous with like a mad scientist because they're trying to play god, right? They're trying to create life or make some kind of miracle cure or something, but they get like over the top into it where they can't like accept their limitations as a human. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or like some kind of perversion you know, of science in a sense. Like, remember that Madame Lalaurie thing where she kind of did experiments, or her husband was a surgeon, and they did experiments on slaves in their attic, and it was just this
Yeah.
horrible thing.
Yep.
Is that forbidden knowledge?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Or like sideshow things where they like stitch body parts onto animals that
Yeah.
don't belong, and it's like, oh, I don't know if that we should be
The
looking at
fall
that.
of man, that's forbidden knowledge. Like we kind of got into that. Or like even when the angels fell,
Yeah.
they wanted,
Oh yeah.
more.
So forbidden knowledge is it often involves encountering information or entities that are beyond human comprehension or are meant to remain hidden. I think we already kind of alluded to that. Like, what if we found out something about like our religion or our creation that just changed everything about how we view it, or gave it, like we were saying, I think that's a big piece of it. If it gave it definitiveness, that would change how we live our lives, like intentionally, right? Like our intention in life, I think, to some standard.
Oh my God. It's like, how we often consider knowledge the antidote to anxiety. It's like
No,
we'll
sometimes
provide
it's the
psychoeducation.
opposite.
You'll know what's going on in your body and you'll feel a lot better. But isn't knowledge also the more knowledge you have, the more anxiety
I, th-
provoking?
I feel like it's a limitation too. All right, so let's say I have this dream,
Yeah.
and but then I get the knowledge that at some point my dream's definitely not going to come true. So I decide what's the point of working on that dream if it won't come true, forgetting that sometimes, as Adler would say, it's not necessarily that accomplishment that's the most rewarding part. Sometimes it's the journey to that, even if
Hmm.
it ends up not turning out the way you expected, and you never know what opportunities come along the way. Greg, you and I are never going to be successful with this podcast, but we don't know what what opportunities are going to come along the way.
Most evidence points to that, yes.
But we might get this amazing opportunity at some point. So that's why we keep doing it, just
Keep plugging
waiting,
away.
just waiting for that opportunity.
Yeah, it's funny. Like as human beings, we just want to like bring order to chaos. I'm reading a book about that called "Why Fish Don't Exist," and it's like about this. It's super interesting, but it has nothing to do with this. But I think that part of being human is trying to fit. We're always trying to like make the unknown known. Like we have this sense, like that's why religions are created. That's why like mythology, all this great stuff is created because we're trying to make order and sense out of the world we live in, the unknown. But it turns out the ultimate danger is the known, right?
Right, right.
Like
Wait, what's
like
the name of the book?
knowing for sure
What's the name of
sucks.
what is the name of the book that you're reading?
Why fish don't exist.
Why they don't exist. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Interesting.
they do though.
Yes.
Spoiler alert.
Incomprehensibility is the core horror arises from the inability to grasp or describe the nature of the entity or information, leading to an existential dread of or fear of the unknown. And you already kind of referred to that when you're talking about how H.P. Lovecraft would always like describe things as being indescribable.
Yeah. Like where do I put this? Like you see, is that how you recognize it? Like you watch a lot of horror. There's movies where like the villain or the monster, the entity is like doesn't fit anywhere in nature and it's inconceivable. Like what do I well that's a
Oh,
quote from
I have a perfect example of this, and it's an excellent book too. Annihilation. Have you? Natalie Portman was in that. Did you ever see that?
I never
So
seen it.
they go into like they step into this other dimension, I guess, through this portal, and there's creatures there that it almost like borders on that. What was the first episode we ever did? Polar
Uncanny
Express.
Valley.
Uncanny. It almost borders on that, but there's something indescribable about their appearance which makes them terrifying. Like she gets attacked by a bear, but its face has some kind of indescribable anomaly to it that I
Yes.
can't really state or describe to you, but it's terrifying looking. And everything in this little dimension is a little like that. And
So
it's
we like to explain. We like to understand.
right.
And if we're not able to do that, then we're left in this like existential dread
A
or terror.
perfect example that has nothing to do with any of this is like, all right, so let's say you're having a fight with someone, right? And you can't understand why they are being the way they are to you. So what does your brain immediately do because you can't find a rational explanation? Your brain makes an explanation.
Hmm.
And so often our explanations are like, it's something about me, because at least that's something that I can believe and accept. Like,
Hmm.
oh, they're mad at me, they don't like me, or if I get rejected, oh, I'm ugly, I'm not interesting, all of those things, because that's an easier thing for us to accept than like, hey, I have no idea why that interaction just went that way. There's nothing they told me that explains it. You know what I
We
mean?
wouldn't be able to accept that. You'd have to explain it,
You
right?
have to. So you make the explanation. And that's basically what our mind does with things like this. It makes an explanation, but if it can't, that's going to change you forever.
Yeah,
How do
that's going
you
to say to your brain and to yourself that this world is dangerous and unexplainable, and there's things out there you'll never be able to explain. And where does that leave you?
think about this, Greg? And we're going to get into some weird territory with this.
Okay.
Think about when 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 we first started to see people who looked like us but didn't look like us, right? So um Rudyard Kipling and like all that stuff. He's like, he's looking at he's traveling and seeing tribes people, and he's saying horrendous things when we read it today. But imagine that first experience of seeing something familiar, but then it doesn't make sense and it's unfamiliar. And he
Hmm.
immediately starts to label it as like dangerous or non-sophisticated with that because he had no understanding of it, right? Today it's easy for us to say, wow, that's fucked up. Like, why would he say those things about this society that had its own set of rules and sophistication that he just didn't understand? But imagine your first time stumbling upon, like, we can't even do that today. We
Hmm.
know pretty much too much, right? We know everything. We don't even find species that often that why, as far as I know, that like we aren't familiar with. But imagine when they first see those things.
Yeah, what will we immediately get wrong?
We'll
That's an
think it's
interesting thought too.
dangerous, right?
Yeah.
We'll try to make explanation of it by labeling it things that could be
Because
totally
we
wrong.
all know to survive, we lean towards the negative. That's what we have always done.
Yeah. So not to
Wow.
say that that stuff's okay, but putting a little context to it, imagine putting yourself in that experience of seeing different societies or people that look familiar but are different or look
Just
different.
slightly different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. This thing lends itself to so many areas that I didn't realize. I like to think about it in terms of literature, and I'll give you a couple of examples, like literature and movies, I guess. So if you guys have been dying for some examples, here's some. This is the initial one that I saw, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a cool thing to talk about. So there's this collection of short stories called The King in Yellow, and it's by Robert W. Chambers. And the first four mention a forbidden play called The King in Yellow. And that play that just by seeing it or reading it, it puts the reader into a place of despair and madness. And this is something, this is old. This is something that people have been talking about. All we talked about Lovecraft and Cthulhu and all that. And but I think like two sort of, what do you call it? Like maybe contemporary. I don't even know if you can call this contemporary anymore, but remember The Ring?
Yep. Yep.
So that was visual. I think there was an auditory element to that,
Yep.
and watching it leads to your death.
I mean, and
What
there's
is
been a few like movies like that that kind of have gone off that idea. Like if something appeared, if you see something in a photo, I think it wasn't there one like The Eye or something like that with Jessica Alba? I think
Mhm.
there had some elements of that in there. But that idea, The Ring, definitely was like that was so freaky when that first came out. That
It was
segment,
freaky.
I used to like just watch the tape because it
What?
like there was like a bonus feature on one of the DVDs where you could just watch like what they would see on the tape. I used to just watch that because it would freak me out. I loved it.
Dude, you are that when that would come on, when that part would come on, I would be like with a group of friends and everyone would be looking at the TV and I would be looking at it, but I'd be like doing like 1,000 yard stare at like the corner of the VCR or something like that. So just in case,
And
I,
it's so funny too because it was the parts of it that were almost like normal that would be the creepiest because they were in context with other things that were creepy, like the woman brushing her hair. There's nothing creepy about a woman brushing her hair, but just the way she's staring at the camera, and then like the splice to like something totally unrelated. It gave it
yeah.
this like very wrong feeling. Like you felt like you were watching something you shouldn't be
Well, I
seeing.
think that's the thing about the cognitohazard. It gives you that feeling of nothing you know is there's things out there that are unexplainable. So everything becomes sort of unexplainable, and you're just kind of you have no reference point anymore. You have no like grounding anymore. So you're just kind of everything is sort of has this creepy element to it. The
Yeah.
Ring was really great, and I think it's cool because you can like it is like a metaphor for like the world because you can stumble upon something that you didn't know you weren't supposed to see, but you did. And now, that's you can walk out the door and stumble into something terrible happening to you. You can anything can happen. It could be a storm, it could be
Right.
nature. Like the world is a dangerous place, and I think that these cognitohazards is just like a small, like a micro reminder of that. Like you can stumble
You had
upon
something
something that
else.
changes everything.
You had something else in your notes that I want you to mention.
Bird Box?
No, before that.
Oh, cigarette burns?
Yeah. Have you seen
Yeah,
it?
you've seen that?
Yes.
Oh.
It's got Norman Reedus, aka Daryl from The Walking Dead in it. And he was a little
Oh.
pumped up at the time. He must have been in between projects. But yeah, it's like the same premise. There's like a movie that movie theater and there's a movie that you're not that's like forbidden to watch and same thing as like The Ring basically except more expedited process. You don't have to wait the 7 days. There's also a podcast called The Black Tapes, and there was a segment in that podcast because they kind of go through multiple storylines, and there's one segment where there's like a sound. I can't remember if it was the Black Tapes or if it was one of the
That was
variant
Tanis.
Tanit. Well, no, there was another one. It's so definitely Tanis. I know exactly what you're talking about,
Hmm.
but there was one where it's like it was a score to a movie. I think that was part of the Black Tapes. I could be wrong, but
I gotta say, as you're plugging a different podcast, I gotta say that was an excellent podcast.
I'd like to so Black Tanis, Black Tapes, and I think the Rabbit Games or something, those were all connected, same broadcasting publisher or whatever. Those were all super interesting. I got really into those for a
I
period
know,
of
me
time.
too. I loved it.
I used to walk through the woods like on walks and stuff, listening to it, and just to creep myself out because
It was
it
really
really did
cool.
it was effective. Yeah,
Those were kind of corny, kind of over the top, but
yeah,
I really did like those.
yeah. No, I thought they were fun.
What did you think about the movie Bird Box? Because this is what we're talking about here too.
I liked it. I definitely at
Oh,
the time thought it was good. I haven't seen it in a
and
while.
so what happens there? It's like you see the person's eyes and they've changed so much that it's like immediate like death.
I haven't seen it so long. I kind of don't remember the premise of it being honest, but yeah, it was something like I know they had to wear blinders. So
Yeah. It's very strange. Was there and then there was a Peppa Pig thing too. Do you remember that?
no, I don't know that one.
Where like on YouTube somewhere in the dark crevices of YouTube, there's a lot of weird stuff on YouTube that
Of
you kind of
course.
watch and never be the same. But I think that it was like Peppa Pig saying really dark things and maybe like killing his family or something like that. Just watch out on
Jeez.
YouTube.
Yes.
Okay,
Um,
let's try to make this a little more scientific for a
okay,
minute.
we'll try our best. All right, in scientific terms, cognitohazards can be understood as sensory signals, so that's images, sounds, etc., or information that once it's processed or perceived by the brain, it triggers a harmful or undesirable psychological or physiological effect on an individual.
Yeah, so let's talk about that cognitive processing and interpretation. It's a hard thing to kind of wrap your head around, but cognitohazards, they function by exploiting the way our brains process and interpret sensory input information. So there's like these are essentially like triggers or responses. Like unlike physical direct harm, like, getting hit by a rock or getting
Yeah.
cut by a knife, a cognitohazard, they're triggered by a cognitive process. The brain, upon perceiving the hazard, reacts in a way that leads to a negative outcome. You know what the people kind of make it um akin to is, how a strobe light can induce like a seizure, right?
Right. Right.
So that's a cognitohazard. Um, there's also neurological and psychological effects. The harm caused by cognitohazards can, you can bleed, neurological dysfunction, or sometimes even death. So, you know, mental stress, paranoia, in some cases, they say compulsion and psychotic breaks just from perceiving something you've never perceived before or seeing something. And it's immediate. That's what they're talking about here. Now, is that all real? I don't know.
How would we ever know?
I don't know.
Right.
So
So
go
yeah,
ahead, Dave.
I was just gonna say there's some distinguishing cognitohazards from related concepts. I think is something interesting. So in like we had this a little bit with what was the term social contagion and the other thing that was similar. Uh
Um, yes, mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria. Yep. So info hazards, these are broader and they refer to information that can cause harm, while cognitohazards can be a type of info hazard. Info hazards encompass a wider range of dangers like instructions for building a weapon. So, all right, that makes me think what do you call it?
Anarchist Black Book or
Oh, I was thinking like 3D photo printing. Like, well, they started to learn how you can make weapons out of 3D copying or whatever. You
oh
know what I
yeah.
mean? So, like having that information, isn't that a danger when now we know how to make weapons that can potentially get through, you know, securities and things like that?
Oh, the Anarchist Cookbook. Do you remember that?
I've heard of it. I don't really know what it's
I'd
about.
never seen it. I'm surprised you haven't. But something I'm sure you've seen that I haven't, which was kind of like a Rings cognitohazard for me, was Faces of Death. I'm
Oh
still
yeah.
yet to see that.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen all of them. Yeah.
Did it change you?
No, I mean it sticks with you. I don't think it changes you. See, I went down a rabbit hole for a few years too. Like this was after Faces of Death, but like I was like, I want to find the most. I want to see where my limit is of what I can watch. So I started
Wow.
to watch every movie that's kind of infamous for being upsetting, disgusting. Like I never, I never really found it. I guess I don't have that limit, but it definitely like desensitized me to certain
Man,
things because I watched some wild things. Let's
I
just put it
guess
that
so.
way. um, all right. So, m- me is this
Mimetic.
mimetic agents and hazards? These are types of cognitohazards that consist of information that spreads like a virus and affects the mind, causing potentially debilitating effects.
Your chain letter or something?
I don't even know what like has that actually ever happened?
Well, information that spreads like a virus. I mean, that's,
And causing debility, but that could be just like it causes you so much fear, dread, and anxiety that you are debilitated from being able to move forward because you're so terrified. So that could
but
be
that sounds
like
like social contagion though, doesn't it?
little, but it could be individualized, right? So if like I
Yeah.
heard some information that made me feel like the world is going to end because of this thing and and it's soon, I might get so anxiety ridden that like it just takes over and now I can't function correctly. That would be debilitating, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure
All right.
would.
Compulsions and mind affecting effects. These are also similar, but compulsions are often temporary urges, while mind affecting effects are usually permanent alterations to a person's thinking.
Yeah, so it's funny, I don't really know how to place this one. Like it sounds very OCD, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like when you have this thought and to kind of make, and I guess when you think about it, OCD is just kind of all about regaining control by performing a ritual that's not rational, but it's like just in case. A lot of this is just like just in case stuff. I don't know, like it's making me think of so much stuff. Like it's making me think of even Slender Man and like naming things and bringing things like you almost don't want Voldemort,
Okay. You saying
right?
Slenderman was a cognitohazard because now it's changed me forever. And every time I hear someone say Slenderman, I immediately in my head think of Greg Slenderman,
And that's debilitating,
and that's debilitating.
you know? So I
and then
I
and
mean,
then I think, why
it's
didn't we take that person up on that suggestion that we should make shirts to say
we
Greg
have to.
Slenderman?
Well, because we have no money,
Because
but
I'm
we'll get there.
debilitated. I can't even move forward when I think of Slenderman.
Yeah.
I want
So
to.
what do you think about like Voldemort? That just literally coming to you in
Yeah,
the
I guess
end.
that's yeah. Isn't he? Is he the one that they say you don't say his name or whatever?
And yeah, it's the one you don't speak of. And like why? Why don't you speak of him?
Bruno. We don't talk about Bruno. No,
That's
no.
true. Bruno is also a Cognitohazard. Once and then so like of course I guess the lesson here is like once understood, sometimes things are much better. But then what Cognitohazards is like sometimes once understood, things aren't better,
Yeah,
you know? Which is interesting. So it's like, we back in the day, you would say that having any kind of like super positive outlook on life would be, delusion and would be like classified as a disorder. And then, in the 80s and 90s, you kind of get into this idea of like positive psychology and having this like optimistic orientation in the future is a good thing. And now we're starting to say that, like, okay, so like both can be true, both are kind of good, because to think things are too good is also kind of dangerous too. So it's like we can never get information right. And I think that's a funny thing that's like the through line here. Because, like, I mean, if you think you're too good, if you have too high of opinion about yourself, that's like super dangerous in a lot of ways too,
of
right?
course. Yeah.
So I don't know.
The
Like,
thing
I
with
don't
this
know where,
episode is this is a good one that hopefully can get some participation from others because I think basically both of us are stating that like this is a hard concept for us to even wrap our heads around. So if there's
yeah.
and I know we have some listeners who I'm thinking of one right off the top of my head who probably would have some thoughts about this. Um, Tim. So I feel like he would be able to share some insight.
Mikey
But
B
if anybody
and
has some insight, please, hit us up, share it on Patreon if you're on there, which you should be. Um, I think Bruno, Greg, you know what that one is?
I know Bruno, yeah.
It's an Encanto Nigo hazard, right?
Wow. You know,
That's a dangerous word to say,
we should
actually.
probably end.
um, yeah. So Patreon, great place to be. Loving it.
Should have said in the beginning
We
because people
just
have left us after the
we got a
comment.
few newbies. We got Rachel and we got P who just became a bonus member. So P, thank you very much for that. And Rachel, welcome to the club as well. Everybody, make sure you join the Patreon. Um, we're building that community, engage, interact, meet people.
Yeah, and I
Don't
think Dave's right on this one. I think help us out with this one.
this is one we
We
need
only had
some
a
support
week. I
with.
mean, help us out with this one.
It's
I'm
our
still
old
kind of like,
minds too.
how
Our
are we
old
talking
minds.
about?
I know. Our minds are too old for this stuff
I know.
sometimes,
This is a young man's
You
game.
you tried to infiltrate the young man's game with this, and our old minds couldn't comprehend it.
Maybe
So
understanding Cognitohazard is our Cognitohazard.
yeah, we're not supposed to.
We weren't supposed to. We dabbled with forces we don't understand.
That's right.
Ooh.
Well, Greg, thanks for sharing with us and for wearing a Detroit hat for some reason. I appreciate that. Detroit represent.
Yep.
You've never even been to
Yep.
Detroit,
Detroit.
I bet.
I'm a huge fan of the Netflix show Detroiters.
Have you ever been to Detroit?
I have been to Detroit.
Really? That surprises the hell out of
Mm.
me.
So yes, but just in passing.
You freaking liar. He was at he
I've
was at
been
the
on the
airport.
soil.
He was at the airport.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Hey, that counts.
No, no, it doesn't.
I count it.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. Peace out.